Hey, Diana, did you know the most dangerous lawyer in the room is the one using AI?
Mark, that's the dumbest thing you've ever said.
Ladies and gentlemen, jurists and just curious, welcome to the Successful Barrister podcast. Here you'll learn about marketing, management, and life skills for lawyers that probably won't get you disbarred. Hosted by Marc Whitehead, a seasoned lawyer who remembers when fax machines were cutting edge, and Diana Berry, attorney, COO, and the brains behind the scenes. Together, they are the legal world's most dynamic duo since statutes met regulations. So if you're looking to build a practice, not a prison, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Successful Barrister, where legal legends are made.
And welcome to the Successful Barrister podcast, the podcast for lawyers and law firm leaders about marketing, management, and life skills that probably won't get you disbarred. I am your host, Marc Whitehead, alongside my co-host, my number one, Diana Berry. Hey, Diana, what's up?
Not much, Mark. I really enjoy the outline that you gave to me 3 minutes before recording started.
This is when we're at our best, when we're just winging it. So yeah.
I'm impressed that you decided to poke the bear before you have to be in a car with me for 3.5 hours.
So today we are driving to San Antonio, which we're too cheap to fly. It's only 3.5 hours, so we're driving to San.
I'm glad I'm not flying.
Yes, I kind of agree with that. But anyway, so we're driving to San Antonio for the PILMA conference. And for those who do not listen to our podcast on a regular basis, PILMA is the Personal Injury Marketing and Management
You missed the
Personal Injury Lawyer Marketing and Management Association, the longest, biggest mouth.
Which is why we just call it PILMA.
This is why we call it PILMA, because I don't know. Anyway, it is what it is. This is probably the same way Google started, so.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. I'm just about the
excited,
name, not the tech, but.
This year, it doesn't look to be completely AI focused.
Yeah, last year was a little bit kind of over the top.
And so this is our second conference. We went to Fireproof last month, and it wasn't completely AI focused. So I am hoping that everybody has just taken a bit of a break on the AI.
Except us, because that's what we're going to talk about today.
Because we are leading up to episode 100.
Episode 100. So
can you believe it, Mark?
I know. So this weekend, we are going to probably run across a young gentleman. He's in his 50s. An old coot gentleman named Conrad Somm.
I was just going to say, does Conrad know you're calling?
Conrad does not know this. He does not know anything about him, and I'm going to ambush him. So this is not going to, and I have a recording because he has a podcast that I love, and in his podcast, this was 2 years ago, and I was talking to him at the MTMP conference, and I mentioned that I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, and it was being delayed, and I was saying, my target is this summer. So he started ragging on me on his podcast about he's never going to get that damn podcast off the ground. So I'm going to make him eat crow.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going to get him.
Did not know where that was going.
Yes.
That's so nice.
And I'm going to record it, and that's going to be our lead in on our 100th episode.
Collegial. Well, we are doing, we're leading up to episode 100. This one is going to be actually listener voted, because you guys, this is an update on the most listened to episode
today. That's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing today.
An episode, what we think is episode 97, but sometimes we lose count. But
we do. But in case you guys were curious about what the most listened to episode was, drum roll.
It was our episode on Mark Lanier and his use of AI.
Yep. You attended the Lanier conference last summer.
So cheap plug. So Lanier 9.0 was last summer here in Houston. Lanier 10.0 is coming up in June. Specifically, it is June 22nd through June 25th here in Houston, Texas. It is called Lanier 10.0, or otherwise called the Lanier Trial Academy Masterclass. So still time to sign up. I have signed up. I'm going. It's easy for me. It's right here in Houston,
Yep. It is a good one. And everyone last year was all about AI. So
last year
with what everybody was doing, it was all about AI, and you guys loved it. So
right, and we ate it up.
This year, this episode 97, we hope is 97. We think is 97. We're going to do an update on what?
our most popular podcast ever.
What maybe Lanier got right?
What Lanier got right. So the title of this podcast is What Lanier Got Right About AI and Why Most Lawyers, that's us, lawyers, still miss the point. So that's what we're going to do today. And leading up to our 100th episode is we're going to start recapping a little bit some of our greatest hits. So isn't that what Casey Kasem used to do?
No, I do remember Casey and Kasem, and I think that's what he used to do.
Yeah, exactly. So what I would say is, since Lanier's Trial Academy last year, and basically 3 days of talking about how he used AI in his trial prep, and Lanier's probably got the biggest verdicts in the country. At least he did have the biggest verdict in the country when he hit the Vioxx litigation verdict. I don't know if it's been passed since then, but serious trial lawyer. So this is why the room is packed. And when he's speaking, nobody goes out to the vendor hall. The room is packed, and they stay there, all day to listen to him, because it's just him, and he will mesmerize you for the entire day, because this is how good he is. Lanier just got a big verdict against Mark Zuckerberg in Los Angeles. That trial, the social media litigation, Lanier got them there. Not a huge verdict, but it was a significant verdict, because number one, he got past all of the statutory protections that Facebook thought was protecting them, and he managed to get past them. So it kind of opened the floodgate. Anyway, let's talk about what Lanier got right. And I think one of the things that we hear about a lot is is AI going to replace lawyers? And of course, Lanier is like, hell no, it's not going to replace lawyers. It's a tool that lawyers can use to quite frankly, to leverage their own skills.
So I think that, I found the statistic, and of course, there's a bunch of statistics out there right now, but 70% of legal professionals now use AI tools in their work. And of course, we talked in our first episode. Mark, what was the Lanier episode? Do you know which number that was?
Well, I thought you were going to tell me. You're the one that
we'll get that.
You're the numbers person.
We're so prepared. We'll get that for you guys. But in that original episode, we talked a lot about the difference between ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and how you use the different ones. And of course, very recently, Claude, we called Claude at that time the associate who catches the footnote you missed.
Yes.
And Claude very recently, I think in the last week, Anthropic just launched Claude for Legal last week. So it's expanded its generative AI offerings for lawyers, including a connection to things like co-counsel, which is
right.
Yeah. So Claude's definitely gotten more into the legal space. And so now, and I think the tension isn't so much will AI replace me? It's 70% of legal professionals are using AI, but also on the flip side, in Q1 alone, Mark, did you know that judges have issued over $145,000 in fines for AI hallucinations?
I've heard that. Yes.
One judge was a significant, $110,000 fine. One judge was.
This one judge really skewed the numbers.
He really did. But I think that's the tension between everybody's using it, but are we using it carefully and correctly?
Yes. So I think what lawyers' mistakes are, they kind of make one of two mistakes. Mistake number one is treating AI like Google. They're just using it as a search tool, which I'm not saying you can't use it that way, but you're not using it to its full potential. You're not using it the way Lanier would tell you to do it. Lanier would tell you, treat it like a partner that you can bounce ideas off of, a partner that you can brainstorm ideas off of. That's the way he would say he would use it. And I think the other thing though is some people go too far with it, and they treat AI as like a substitute for their own legal judgment. That is where lawyers really get into trouble, when they rely on it for its judgment, as opposed to just relying on it for what it is good for, to bounce ideas off of and to get yourself organized and to kind of be that brainstorm device. That's where people get fined. They just pumped it into AI and spit out a product and assumed it was right and didn't check it.
Well, and I think that's also become, Mark, you like to say that our clients are our biggest competitor because they think that they can do it themselves. And I think especially in the day of AI, they definitely are using Claude or any, ChatGPT for legal judgment and thinking that they can now represent themselves through these denials. And
Oh my
that's
God.
just, it's a little more dangerous now in the world of AI. So, Mark, what are we talking about today?
So today we are going to talk about what Lanier got right. So a lot has changed in this 12 months since Lanier 9.0. So I want to go through some of my notes and relook at my notes and some of the predictions he made and some of the thoughts he thought about how AI could be used and kind of go what I think he got right.
This podcast is sponsored by Marc Whitehead Associates, a national disability benefits law firm. Marc Whitehead runs a firm of over 60 dedicated people whose mission is to make a difference in the lives of our injured and disabled clients. Marc represents disabled claimants in Social Security disability, private disability insurance, and veterans disability claims in all 50 states. Marc Whitehead is double board certified in both Social Security disability law and personal injury trial law. Marc has litigated disability cases in over 40 states and counting and can help your clients too. Stop throwing your phone calls away. Call Marc Whitehead at 701-VIP-LEAD. That's 701-VIP-LEAD. Or visit our website at disabilitydenials.com. Referral fees are paid in all jurisdictions where it is permitted. Refer us your disability cases today and know that your clients will be in good hands.
And we're back. All right, Diana. So we looked it up in the break.
Yep, we did.
Why? So which episode is it?
Episode 62.
Okay, which was September 29th of last year. So it took us a few months to get around to summarizing Lanier's thoughts.
It did.
They were so deep, it took me a while for them to sink in and write a podcast outline on it.
Oh, we probably did record it earlier. We just.
Okay, all right. So maybe late, whatever.
All right. So what did Mark Lanier get right first, Mark?
Okay. So I think the first thing that I remember him saying is technology doesn't replace excellence. It amplifies it. I think that's one of the key kind of core themes that he was using and talking about. And he kind of, I remember he went back, he said, remember when we first got word processors? Of course, he's 65 years old and, I'm.
How old, Mark?
I'm not going to say, but this is my 34th year of practicing law, so you can do the math. I remember back in the days when word processors were a new thing. Then they weren't standard issue stuff.
Oh, I got in our intro when fax machines met.
Yeah, something like that. I don't listen to our intro. No.
I listen.
It talks about when fax machines were cutting edge. Yes, I'm not joking. Fax machines still used that curly fax paper that nobody here knows about. It wasn't until a couple of years into my practice that we had plain paper faxes. That was a new innovation. So anyway, what Lanier basically said, and I think what Lanier understood is AI, it's not a substitute for trial skill. It's not a substitute for your ability to persuade. It's not a substitute for your judgment. Really what it is, it's a force multiplier. It helps lawyers think, prepare, you can test arguments with it. I've done that. That's fun, and it basically helps you see more possibilities.
Yep. So I think that, he was probably echoing Jeff Wood's AI-driven leader. So that was episode 65. I do have that number.
Okay.
Somehow I had that number, but I didn't have the original
I don't
number.
understand where your mind thinks.
Jeff Wood's, we did an episode on the book AI-driven leader, which
I was just looking at that book last night.
I don't know. I thought it was an okay book, but it is at the top of. I mean, everyone likes it and cites to it in terms of getting how to work with AI as a thought partner. He says those words ad nauseum in that book, but using AI as a thought partner. So I'd go back to episode 65, maybe even read Jeff Wood's book, AI-driven leader, to think about how you can use AI to improve your decision making and help accelerate your business growth.
Well, one of the things that in that book, AI-driven leader, there is one chapter. It's the chapter, maybe it's the appendix, where he has a lot of prompts for different purposes. And so as I have learned, my new trick is to take books and to put a razor blade to them and then scan them and then feed them into Claude, because it's easier than typing them. But I would like to pull a lot of his prompts out. In the old days, you'd have a secretary who would just hand it to you, and she would type it out for you. But
Yep.
since in our firm, we don't have secretaries anymore. So
I don't even know that you can still say secretary. Is that PC?
Is that PC? Am I doing it again?
Is that like stewardess, flight attendant? You have to be. Let's be careful and not get banned, Mark. We've almost at episode 100. Let's not get.
Robert Half still lists secretary as a profession.
Okay, good.
Okay,
well,
so with
so
Robert Half,
we're not going to get blacklisted.
We're not going to get blacklisted for saying the word secretary. I think that's still legit.
So Lanier was right. Use AI as a thought leader.
Correct. The other thing Lanier was pushing is use AI to its fullest, but you have to ask it better questions. AI is only as smart as the lawyer asking the question. I think that was something that he repeated. And the key is that most lawyers use AI like this, like they say, "Here, draft me a motion." Well, that's kind of weak. That's not going to get you much. I mean, it might be able to fill out a template if you've already fed the template into the thing. But he said what Lanier suggested was use it like, for example, ask it questions like, what are the strongest arguments against me? After you fed it in a fact pattern. What am I missing? Where are the gaps? How would the other side frame this story? He's preparing for trial. I remember this specifically when he was going through, and talking about case theming, which is a big thing with Lanier. He's always talking about case theming, but basically, where is my narrative weak and how can I fill in the gaps? It's, kind of what he was talking about in terms of how do you ask better questions, more thoughtful questions. So not a shortcut, but a thinking partner.
So in preparing for this,
you prepared
this episode, I did in my 3 minutes that I was given.
Why?
Because that's what I do. There's an ABA article out there for the PI attorney listeners. It's called The Quick Guide to AI Prompts for Personal Injury Lawyers. It's not behind a paywall or anything like that.
Really?
It's a free one. So it gives prompts for chronology, gaps and inconsistencies, which we were talking about, causation. And so because I think that one of the hardest...
Send that to me. I have not seen this.
I will send this to you. I will send you my podcast prep, Mark. I appreciate that you're interested now in my prep for podcasting. So, but guys, because I think that I've implemented quite a few tools for Mark in the firm and tried to get buy-in. And I know every lawyer out there is going to be real like, wow, Diane, are you really surprised? But your attorneys are probably more resistant to AI than your staff.
Oh, I think staff love it.
Yeah, and you would think that they would be, there's some hesitation to it, but now we've introduced so much change into their workflow that they're like, cool, they can see the returns on it. Your attorneys are like, no, get me another paralegal. You just had to do that.
They just did that. They're like, give me more help. They always want to throw bodies at the problem.
They want to throw a body. And I'm like, have you used our new AI tool? They're like, we need a body. You don't understand the work that we do, Diana. And I'm like,
yeah. Like, we didn't go to law school. Yeah, we don't know shit.
Okay. I get it. But I do think the most intimidating part of it for them is that they don't know how and where to start. So as brilliant as they are as attorneys and as practitioners, the idea of just opening up a blank web page and being like, okay, now what do I do? So I literally just break it down for them. Here's a prompt. When you get this case, run these 2 prompts. It is now required that you do that. I will go back and check and make sure that you do that. And I gave them the prompt. So go back and look for this, or maybe we'll put it in show notes. I don't know. But there is an ABA article out there, not behind a paywall, Quick Guide to AI Prompts for Personal Injury Lawyers.
Okay. All right. Well, that's probably the best tip that we're going to get all day out of this podcast.
Going to be one of my tips.
One of your tips, because nobody pays me to do this podcast, so why should I prepare? That's kind of my attitude behind it. So.
Do you think you pay? Is this part of my job description?
I think you get paid.
Let's talk about that one.
Yeah.
My voice goes that high, Mark. We need to back up a little bit. So what is our third point from Lanier?
All right. So one of his themes that he talked about when he talks a lot about storytelling because people are persuaded, people are informed better through story. This is kind of a theme. That was the theme of the book we did the podcast on last week, Primal Intelligence.
Sorry.
it was all about how the primitive mind thinks in terms of story, and that's how we as people are always going to be better and more efficient than AI, because we think in terms of story, where AI does not think in terms of story. AI can't fill in, blind spots where we can pick out the blinds. We can pick out the exceptions. Anyway, go back and see episode. I'm just going to shotgun it and say that was probably episode 94-ish.
Might be close.
Yeah,
I don't
somewhere in
know, but
there.
Primal Intelligence.
Yes. Primal Intelligence. Anyway, back to story. I went off on a tangent. So what Lanier said is that jurors want to hear a story, and AI can help build a story, but AI can't tell the story. Cases aren't won by information; they're won by persuasion. So the facts are the information, but the story is how you piece the facts together. And AI can help you build a story, but it ultimately is not going to be able to tell the story. That's kind of your job. And one of the things that Lanier was talking about, he goes, and quite frankly, I think he was bragging slightly, but that's okay, because he's earned the bag.
He can probably. He might just have been stating facts.
He said the reason he wins is because of story, and because he can tell a story, simply, and he can develop a narrative, and he knows how to interweave emotion into the story. And that was, I think, the point he was trying to make, is that's the human element of it, but where AI can help, he said he uses it to help test themes, to help simplify facts. I do that all the time. So I will write, and I will just come up with verbal vomit, and then I will stick it into AI, and I'm like, express the same point in a more succinct way. I think AI is really good. That's a really good use of AI as an editing tool. My new trick now, our AI consultant has taught me how to use the little 2-finger method. Have you learned this yet? With what's the simplest, the voice
Whisper.
What's it called?
Whisper.
Okay.
I think it's called Whisper with a WHISPR.
So basically what it is, it's a little device that you can add into Windows. It's a Windows.
It's a plug-in.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I didn't realize you were paying for it. I would have bought it.
I didn't. Am I paying for it? I thought it was free.
For the first 30 days, I think you get a 30-day free trial.
Okay, whatever. You simply hold down 2 buttons and you can talk to Claude, or you can actually talk to any program within Windows. So you can talk to anything, but you can just dictate, and I will just vomit into Claude.
What a beautiful visual, Mark.
I know. And I will say, Claude, now summarize what I said in a more cogent fashion and read it back to me.
Yeah. So our new AI consultant did mention that. So I think you can use any keys that you want, their function keys, to basically begin talking to it. And it's really good at creating things in a succinct way. And, creating bullets and, enumerating lists and those types of things. If I want to make a 3, draft me an email with 3 bullet points, the first one being, it'll actually do all that for you.
Yeah. The other thing he talked about was he uses Claude. He uses Claude specifically to help build analogies. Analogies are powerful storytellers. And I have always thought about that as like, I've always had a hard time coming up with analogies, quickly. I have to, think about it for days. And he uses Claude to build his analogies for him, or help him with it. I've never tried that yet, but I don't do a lot.
It's probably more useful. Yeah, it's probably more useful for a trial attorney.
It's more useful for a trial attorney because you're really having to tell the stories. But we do give a lot of presentations. We give a lot of speeches. I get to be on TV from time to time.
You just had to throw that in there.
I did. I was on TV twice this week.
Yeah, that's where we were going with it.
I was on 2 different TV programs this week. So yay me. Yay Bianca, my PR person who gets me on TV.
Shout out to Bianca.
Yeah, Bianca's great.
So if AI isn't going to replace humans as storytellers, what does AI do, Mark? What was Lanier's point?
So I think the point was that lawyers still have to tell the story. The lawyer has to be the human in it. But the AI is just a good tool for helping you clarify your story, to help you build analogies, help you build rhetorical, verbiage, things like that, bounce things off of. And clarify points. Sometimes complex points, it's good for helping clarify complex points.
Yep. And so AI, according to your outline, also replaces friction, not judgment. What do you mean by that?
Okay, well, it's not what I meant. It's what Lanier meant.
Oh, I didn't
So
realize these were his words.
These are all his words.
Oh.
These are coming from my notes. So basically, AI replaces busy work. So you can actually think. For example, now this is more of a Google analogy, but this works well. It's like coming up with a quote. Like I'll get stuck when in writing, and I need a quote that kind of expresses this thought, but I kind of have it in the back of my mind. I know I've heard it somewhere, but I just ask Claude, I need a quote, and I think this is what it said, and I can't remember the exact wordage, but this was the point I was trying to make with a quote or the analogy or whatever it is. Can you go find it for me real quick? And I'll just find it for you immediately. And then you could move on. So that's like elimination of busy work for me having to go figure out what that was. That's probably a weird example, but that's the best example I could come up on the flies.
So you cut a couple of departments here, Mark, on how we use AI.
So we use AI. Well, number one, we use it in intake. So I came up with this real cool thing the other day. We divide all intakes, our intake department, when they screen leads that come in and call us, which we have people calling us a lot, into green bucket, yellow bucket, and red bucket. Green buckets are automatic signs. Red buckets are basically automatic, decline or refer. The yellow bucket are the tough calls that has to be run up the flagpole. They need to either go to the intake manager or to an attorney. And especially doing like a Social Security disability screen, you need to compare the facts to the grid rules. And there's 117 grid rules, which can be a bit complicated. It's even hard to teach lawyers how to do it. But it's really hard to teach intake staff how to do it. And there's 14 different medical listings, which are basically checklists of requirements to be found disabled for certain diseases. And each of those 14 categories probably has 20 subparts to it. That is really almost impossible to teach your intake team to do. So I created, what do you call them? Artifacts, a project. I created a tool.
Okay.
That fed all of that information in and allows our intake manager to feed in her facts. She doesn't feed in medical records. She feeds in just facts that are anonymized. And it compares the facts to these 117 rules and all of these different listings. And it comes back with, this fits this scenario, or this might fit this scenario, but we need to ask these additional questions. Or maybe this is a case that we would probably doesn't fit any of our scenarios, so maybe we would decline it. It doesn't make the decision. It's just a tool to help her. So this was a thing that I developed this past week. And as a matter of fact, Erica reported back on it this morning. She says it was very helpful. It was a little bit stingy. It kind of was poo-poo in some cases that she would take. And I said, that's fine. That's where you come in. You're the ultimate decider. I just wanted to see if this is a tool that can help you get through all of those if-thens a lot quicker. So worked. So we're using the intake department that way.
We also, for all non-disability listeners out there, we also use Speed AI, which is probably going to be at PILMA this year again.
Yeah.
So that's a great intake. It's intake rescue.
An intake rescue tool.
Intake rescue tool. And actually has been implemented. They started with PI firm. So for PI listeners out there, that's a good AI tool as well.
Yeah. Marketing. Guess what? We use it for our podcast outlines.
Mark.
You do too. Don't act like you don't.
I do sometimes.
All the time. I've noticed. You can tell because the Claude leaves the little lines in it. So I know when
Claude
I see
doesn't. ChatGPT does as much, but
they're right there.
Is that ChatGPT?
That's Claude.
Hmm.
No, wait a minute. That is ChatGPT.
I was just gonna say Mark. I'm gonna call blank on that.
That's right. I forgot.
So we use it for flesh out ideas, whether that's
Yes.
podcast outlines, blogs.
It can also be used to help with your SEO efforts, your search engine optimization efforts. There are basically tools, AI tools out there that can go in and crawl your own website and say, this is where you may be lacking in content. It can also crawl your competitors' content, their websites, and see where they're doing things that you're not doing, and maybe you should catch up. There's all sorts of gap fillers that it can do in terms of looking at your website and seeing how well or how poorly it is doing, depending.
I would also refer our listeners back to episodes 81 and 82, where we discussed AI and marketing, specifically AEO and GEO and those types and all of that in marketing.
So this is your new stick now. You're actually going to go back and look at our past podcasts and
Mark,
start
when you
quoting
give
them?
me an outline 3 minutes before we start recording, I'm struggling for.
I got up this morning at 6 o'clock to do this outline. I got out of bed early because I don't normally get up at 6 o'clock, but to do this. So I've been working. It wasn't like I didn't have things to do.
I'm grateful, Mark. So this is my next favorite one because this was my
Do this
brainchild.
one. This one's yours.
This is my brainchild. So this year we started, one of my goals was to figure out if we could safely use Claude for our financial analysis. So we started a project, Mark and I did together. A project is where you can collaborate across if you're on the same team. Or with, the same team in Claude.
I sometimes wonder if we're on the same team. But
I do too, Mark. Is that a different podcast, though?
this is therapy. We need therapy.
This is neural therapy. Well, at least in Claude's eyes, we are on the same team for this financial project. And so I have fed in of Q1's financials. And in just, it was so quick, Mark. And the feedback that it gave us was brilliant and so much better than anything. It was unbelievable. So I think the takeaway there is because we still have an outside CPA, obviously, who helps us with so many different things and serves a bit like a fractional CFO. And I would say that my takeaway from that whole experiment is even if you're not going to use AI internally, because either you don't have that version of Claude, the paid version of Claude or whatnot, your service vendors should be using AI safely to help them do their job.
Right. Get the expensive version so it's closed. You want open.
Well, and we're not putting client information. I think that's the most important thing.
We're putting our information in there. Claude knows a lot about me personally.
Well, it's not you, not personally, because it is firm
I heard you drop
financials.
the F-bomb. Did you drop?
No,
Were you about
sir.
to drop the F-bomb?
No, sir.
Okay, I heard
No.
coming out of you and you caught yourself.
Oh, well,
That would have been classic. I would have put that on repeat. That'd have been no ringtone.
is that my
That'd have been no ringtone.
I would say we definitely do not put anything about Mark's personal life into Claude. That would be a big no-no for me. And I don't know what he's doing over there, but that is not in my Claude project, because I do think that we should put in a little disclaimer in there about the United States versus Hepner case. Did you come out?
I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
So ChatGPT, basically, it's one of the most recent decisions about ChatGPT and ethics, and basically that said that anything typed into a consumer AI platform should basically be treated as if it were posted publicly. So basically there's no privilege attached to things. Even if it's just the $20 a month consumer product, that is still not privileged. It's not protected by privilege. And so I think that we all need to be careful.
But yeah, if you get sued, you got to turn it over then.
Well, yes, or you shouldn't assume that it is. If you're in litigation, you shouldn't assume, or even
Claude's not your lawyer.
Yeah. Well, and especially not at the $20 a month version. Like, I think that after that, most people are moving to the enterprise version of every one of those Claude and ChatGPT, and probably moving to Claude Enterprise just out of abundant caution and because of Claude's investment into legal. I think there's we're seeing more protection there.
What is Claude Enterprise when we're talking about it?
It is it's the next level of
the highest level, the more expensive version.
Absolutely.
And it gives you more protection.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, though, we're not putting any client information. I think also, one of my other brainchildren, I put 3 years of SSD data into it. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in that one. And so I put 3 years of Social Security earnings into just straight up numbers. It was 3 columns, date, which group brought it in. and then the amount, and so quickly put together stacked charts by each pod, and then I could toggle between years. And so now all I do is update it to see, and because that actually showed us that, I mean, our attorneys aren't necessarily bringing in the SSD revenue. I should have said that one so loudly, or made that so happy. Oh, that makes me a little happy.
I know.
But so I think that you can at least try, but please be careful when you're doing it, and look out for your ethics violations there.
Right. One more, and this is your strike zone.
Oh, medical record summaries.
Yes, this is the big one. This is actually where it all started. All of the
Yeah.
AI companies out there that are now catering to lawyers all kind of started with medical record summaries, which is understandable. I get it.
It's now a lot more. I swear, if your AI medical record provider is just doing medical record summaries, you probably need to look into maybe a more advanced tool, unless you're just getting a great deal on that particular product. We are not likely going to move to lawpro.ai, but we see them at all. We'll probably see them at Pilma. They're great. We saw them at
Is that an
Fireproof.
anti-plug?
It's because they don't. So much of obviously what we do is so niche that it's hard for us to use a PI specific tool. But their dashboard now has X-rays, and so on my last demo with Law Pro, I saw a cervical or like a spinal X-ray because that was part of it, and it's just really cool now what you can do with AI, and it shouldn't just be medical chronologies, but though it's obviously a very easy layup.
So the last point, I think this is the last point that Lanier made, that I kind of pulled out of my notes, was a competitive divide is going to be coming. And the divide is simply this. It's no longer lawyer versus lawyer. It's the leveraged lawyer versus the unleveraged lawyer. Now, I can equate that to what I would call the old days, when the David versus Goliath, when you had a small firm or a solo lawyer going up against a big law firm. And the big law firm had all the resources. They had Westlaw, they had clerks, they had all sorts. They had a big ass law library where they could easily, just out motion you and out brief you. That day sort of got balanced out with the word processor and with the availability of, Lexis and Westlaw to basically anybody. So there was a balancing there of the field. Today it's more about when he's talking about the leveraged lawyer versus the unleveraged lawyer, he's really talking about lawyers who know how to use AI effectively versus the ones who still do it the old way. So who don't use AI effectively. That's what he's really talking about.
Well, and I think it's unfortunately, that because of the cost of AI and it's not just the dollar cost, which sometimes it can look at your bar rules, because I think I saw that over 30 state bars have now issued guidance on the use of AI. So look at your state bar rules, but there is a cost that you might be able to pass on to your client for the actual AI tool, the cost of running
Right.
your
It
AI.
depends on, it's a state by state thing, I think. I know in Texas
Absolutely.
we can.
It is still an operational cost to implement. And so I think that he's absolutely right in that there is the leveraged versus the unleveraged attorney, if I used his terminology correctly. But the firms that have the ability and the access to AI will leapfrog way faster than those who don't have the team to implement AI.
Yep. All right. So, Diane, when we come back, we are going to go through our 5 action steps going forward on how to implement Lanier's thoughts. We'll be right back.
This is Marc Whitehead, lawyer, entrepreneur, and business coach. Thanks for listening to the Successful Barrister podcast. If we've stirred your juices, hit me up with an email at mark@markwhitehead.com. Remember, Mark is spelled with a C. And get on the Successful Barrister newsletter mailing list. Even better, let's set up a call. I'd love to talk to you about working together, talk shop, or just shooting the breeze.
All right, and we're back. All right, Dan, let's finish up strong here on episode, what we're at, 97?
We hope.
We think.
Or we've just made it wrong. We
We've
caused
just
it wrong.
really
for
screwed up everybody right now.
That's okay.
That's fine. It's in the 90s. It's somewhere in there. So our 5 action steps going forward based on my notes from Mark Lanier 1 year after the fact. Is that ex post facto? Am I getting the Latin
Mark
right?
Lanier 9.0.
Yeah, 9.
Your most listened to episode, listeners.
Okay, just one last plug for Lanier. So July 22nd. No, June 22nd. What did I say? June 22nd? June 22nd through 25th, right here in Houston, Texas, at the lovely Marriott Marquis Hotel, which has a lovely lazy river in the shape of Texas on the roof. You should try that out. That's great.
This is one I don't get to go to.
Well, you can come to Lazy River.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
What's your first action item, Mark?
All right. Number 1, I would say build an AI litigation room. Okay. This, of course, is a virtual room. I would do, like in Claude, we would open up a project. And create some standard prompts in every case. And the standard prompts would go something along the lines of, after you've fed in your facts of your case, is what am I missing? What is the opponent's strongest defense argument? What's the weakest evidence that I have? What's the weakest evidence that the defense attorney has? What would be the jury concerns? What would be my best story theme? Make it thematic. What I am in the process of trying to do is to take some of all of this great CLE material and otherwise publications on litigation, litigation strategy, jury selection, all of these fun things, and feed those into the document library in AI so it can reference those things. And if you pay for it, you have a right to feed it in your personal AI. There's rulings on that. So, but especially the theme. So there's a couple of books: Polarizing the Case, Don't Eat the Bruises, Rules of the Road. These are all great books on theming your case for litigation purposes. Feed those concepts into your AI tool and let them examine your facts and let them help you brainstorm some of these ideas.
My second takeaway is going to be an audible, Mark, because I'm going to pull an ethics takeaway from here. After a recent decision, make sure you're using enterprise-grade subscriptions, such as Claude for Legal. Check that out because that is such brand new news. Anthropic for Legal's investment. Make sure you're using ChatGPT Enterprise, which of course was that's on point for Hepner. So just making sure you're budgeting for enterprise-grade subscriptions, because the free version of AI is obviously a malpractice risk.
Yes. I'm really sort of excited about this new thing with Claude meshing with Westlaw's co-counsel.
Yep.
That could be really exciting.
Well, and CPO also has Thomson as a partner. So CPO now also in its portal has a link to Westlaw, and it's going to integrate however that's going to look in practice.
Mm-hmm. I like this one. Number 3, pressure test every major case that you have. Okay. Before filing, ask AI, tell me why we would lose. Now, again, you have to, so feed in the complaint, feed in your fact scenario, feed in your proof chart. I don't know if people still make proof charts. In my day, we used to make proof charts. They're cool. They're really cool. What would a smart opposing lawyer attack about this case? So that's what I would do. Pressure test your cases. I also know that I think there's a way to do this if you're not a litigator. If you're, how about this one? Here's just one I just came up with off the top of my head. What if I'm an estate planner and I came up with an estate plan and I put it into AI and then I started bulletproofing my estate plan? What could go wrong? What would happen if mom remarries some shyster? What would happen if, the kids get divorced, you could come up with all sorts of scenarios to sort of proof test your estate plan and gameplay the scenarios. What would happen if under this estate plan? So, I hadn't thought that through yet, but it just hit me right at the moment.
That's a good analogy, Mark. Okay. Number 4 would be to remove one layer of attorney friction. So again, we're going back to Lanier's idea that AI replaces friction, not judgment. So find one repetitive attorney task. As we all know, we've talked about ad nauseum, not only on this podcast, but everywhere you hear about AI, AI does great with repetitive tasks. This is where we talked about medical chronologies, medical summaries, and those types of things. And so make sure that you find your next layer of attorney friction and utilize AI.
Mhm. Number 5 on my list is train your whole team. Don't just save this just for you, the lawyer, or the lawyers. Bring your team into it. So we're bringing our teams into it. There's 2 ways to do it. You can set up your own AI tools, which I have a few. I mentioned my one I set up for intake. The other way to do it is, a commercial out of the box program like Eve or Supio or Even Up. But train your people on how to use those products, to fully maximize, fully leverage their time. It's not just about leveraging the lawyer's time. It's about leveraging your people time. Quite frankly, the most valuable thing that your people can do is to stay in constant communication with your clients, because this is a people business that we're in. We are a customer service business. So let them spend their time servicing the customer and not doing menial tasks. So anyway, wrapping up what Lanier said. Lanier said AI is not going to replace lawyers. It's just going to make lawyers harder to beat. So you got to up your game.
And I think that, even in our case, Mark, there's been instances, I think I just saw in preparing for this, that's SSA. I always thought that the government would be behind the game. And I guess they are, but they're starting to utilize AI. SSA has announced that they're using some AI in there to help them analyze cases faster. And of course, insurance companies have always been using AI too.
Oh, they've been using it for decades.
So.
They just use it in a different form. But yeah, they've been using it, analyzing verdicts, analyzing your performance. How do you react when you get a lowball offer? They know all of this stuff. They've known it for years. So, but, I would say, again, don't be afraid. It's not going to replace us. Lawyers are still needed for judgment, for storytelling, for persuasion. We're not going to get replaced. We're just going to be able to use our time doing the human things that we really are supposed to be doing. So that's the way I look at it.
I'd issue a caveat there.
All right, what's your caveat?
If you are a good human attorney, then you're probably not going to get replaced. But if you are not very good,
if you're not a good human, well, we can't help you.
If you're not a very good at emoting or storytelling, and if you're just a great, if
you're a technician, you may have problems.
Exactly. That's my caveat, my little asterisk corollary there.
Okay. With that, do you want to do the closing again?
I don't know, sir, but I'm going to interrupt you every single time.
I heckled you the last time. I'll let you do the closing.
Yes, sir. That's why we're not doing it again.
Oh, fine. That was so much fun, though. Okay, give me your best shot. I want to thank everybody for listening to the Successful Barrister podcast, where legal legends are made. I'm Mark.
And I'm Diana.
And together we're the dynamic duo of law. So if you've enjoyed today's episode, please rate and review us wherever you get your podcast, and be sure to hit that share button and share it with your fellow overworked lawyers who might need a little bit of inspiration. So for more episodes and resources, visit us at successfulbarrister.com or hit me up at marc@marcwhitehead.com. Mark is spelled with a C. Or come on, give me yours.
Oh, Diana and marcwhitehead.com. Diana spelled one N.
One N. I have never seen Diana spelled with 2 N's before. Do you have to tell people that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, that just means
all the time.
Amazing. I find that amazing. Anyway, do not forget our sponsor, Marc Whitehead Associates, a national disability law firm, which can be found at www.disabilitydenials.com. So until next time, run a practice, not a prison. Bye.
Bye.